Hi, I'm Mitchell Ringos. Welcome to Word for Word, where we offer you an in-depth look at some of our interviews with newsmakers from across the region. You'll have the opportunity to hear word for word how they responded to the news of the day. Well, more details are coming to light about the fatal plane crash north of Nakina. The Cessna 208 operated by ZAM Air Services disappeared last Tuesday with 2 crew members on board. The pilot of the volunteer search plane, which spotted the wreckage on Saturday, Gord Tessier, says they had mixed emotions, knowing they had solved the mystery, but also realizing there were no survivors.
Tell us about the moment where you saw what turned out to be the wreckage.
Well, we were simply flying up the track, and suddenly we heard from one of the other members of the crew to turn hard right. We broke the aircraft hard right, came around. We lost it immediately, and then after a couple more turns, we were able to locate the search object, mark it, and then relay the coordinates to our other SAR partners who were on scene literally in a matter of a few minutes. And then from there, we have a script that we follow. They come in, we climb as high as we can to deconflict, and then we act as a communications platform. And then in the meantime, they insert SAR techs, search and rescue technicians, and they continue with the investigation.
Tell us about the feeling when you realize this is it.
Oh, you know, I've been doing this for, 12, 13 years now, and it's a great feeling, but it's also a sad feeling. So,
Knowing that 2 lives were lost.
Yeah, it gets pretty quiet for a few minutes.
This might be a little bit out there, but could you tell, looking at the wreckage, that probably no one survived?
We never speculate because we want the SAR techs on the ground looking right away. Yeah. It didn't look very good to us from our perspective, but beyond that, we just hope, and maybe they're in the ditch nearby with a broken leg and a campfire or something, and then they'll come to the rescue.
And did you see a wing? What was sticking out? The whole plane, or maybe just a wing? What did you see?
Not very much. A little bit of scorched ground, and that was about it.
Yeah. So that's something we didn't realize, that there had been a fire, you believe,
I can't say for sure. It just was a darker area than what the surrounding forest was. Yeah.
We heard just that the terrain posed challenges in this search. As somebody who was,
Yes.
in the air looking at that, can you just give us a better sense of what that looked like and how it may be compared to normal?
Certainly. Well, we've flown in much harsher areas, but the terrain was more or less level. But again, lots of frozen lakes, lots of groves of very dense, thick trees. For the most part, though, we could see straight through to the ground, snow-covered ground. And the big challenge is anytime it snows, the aircraft becomes covered, and then we can't see it. So, but overall, it was fairly clear, and we had good visibility and good ceiling, so we were able to conduct the search and focus on the ground and not on the weather, which was great. Yeah.
So I'm guessing, like you were saying, your thoughts kind of turned to the victims and the families at that moment. Too, right?
Absolutely. I've been flying since the late '80s, and this is the motto of Casera, that others may live. And when we come upon a crash scene and there are no survivors, it's not good. We're glad maybe we can bring closure to the family, but at the same time, it's tough. It's tough for everybody. Yeah.
Patty Haidu made an announcement on Friday. It's a partnership between the Northwestern Ontario Innovation Centre and TBATEL, which will work together to bring fibre internet to rural parts of the region. It's a step towards getting all of Northern Ontario to have access to quick and reliable internet. A $61 million investment by the federal and provincial governments will bring high-speed internet to another 16,000 homes across the north.
One elder said to me, the most important questions are, who are we, where did we come from, and where are we going? And today's announcement's about where we're going. And so it's a really exciting announcement to be able to share with you. I share our acknowledgement of our partnership with Ontario, and they've been a huge piece of expanding broadband and internet across this province. And as Mark has said, in a million different ways, and a million really good examples, I shouldn't say a million, but many good examples, high-speed internet is no longer a luxury to have. This is something that people are relying on. We saw it profoundly during COVID. people trying to work from home, connect their kids to the internet, increasingly access medical care, mental health supports through the internet. And, there was a real disparity across the country in terms of who could actually access those services from the safety and comfort of their home at that time, and then who could not. And we knew that we had to even more diligently work to close that gap for especially Canadians that live in rural communities like the ones that Marcus and I both represent. I'm looking at Dan, rural communities, but I live down near the lake, and I'm sure that my husband Paul has talked to you a number of times about the gap. 15 minutes out of town, and so some of the communities that we're announcing today that will be part of this expansion, in fact, aren't communities that you would typically think of as rural, but really they're just outside of urban centers, and they're having a hard time connecting even so. So as Marcus said, the goal is that 98% of Canadians would be connected to high speed by 2026 and every Canadian by 2030, and we're certainly making progress. I would say that we have to do it in partnership though, not just with provinces, but with partners like Bell and T-Baytel. Super excited to have T-Baytel here. It's a real shining jewel, I have to tell you, another kind of example of hometown ingenuity and industry that serves our community so well. The Northwestern Ontario Innovation Centre, thank you for welcoming us here and for fostering the growth of small and medium-sized businesses and helping to create that diverse economy. But and I was watching your screens, that the digital economy is actually a critical component to success in business these days. Just met with BDC this morning and they talked about exactly that same thing. So I want to announce the full amount. Marcus talked about $41 million. That's the amount that will focus on communities that are in the Thunderbird Rainy River area. But it's a total of $61 million announced today, and that will connect over 16,000 homes in 45 communities across Ontario. So that's a big number, and we're really seeing the progress of closing that gap and making sure that no matter where you live in Northern Ontario, you're going to be able to rely on high-speed internet in your community. The long-term positive benefits are going to be felt for decades. And, as we look at how rapidly business is transforming, education is transforming, the service of healthcare is transforming. We're talking a lot about the reinvestment in modernizing our healthcare systems, and part of that is around ensuring that people can get care closer to home that's good and that's effective. L'investissement annoncé aujourd'hui est tiré de l'enveloppe de 1,2 milliard de dollars qui a été annoncé dans le cadre de l'entente fédérale provinciale signée en 2021 pour brancher tous les foyers restants en Ontario. That's all the French that you get today. But if the media wants to take a crack at it, I think I can even answer in French at this point. But I will just say this investment today is part of a $1.2 billion federal provincial agreement that was signed in 2021. So that's a significant investment a federal investment in expanding broadband across Ontario, and we're seeing real results. The example that I have here today is, for example, in the community of Shoal Lake 39, members are reporting significant changes in their day-to-day life. For example, now thanks to new high-speed internet, they can attend mental health services, telehealth appointments virtually when they can't actually leave their community. And I can tell you that through the pandemic and the $600 million investment in Wellness Together, virtual care was a real key turning point actually for so many people who weren't actually comfortable walking through the door and asking for help for mental health and anxiety. So it's not just about the ease of it, sometimes it's about offering new pathways to services that sometimes people haven't been able to take advantage through generations of stigma. So I'm really excited about this announcement. I think I can't even imagine the ways that this is going to benefit our community from a business perspective, from a functioning perspective, from a community and family perspective, education, healthcare. Marcus really did say it all. So I want to thank everyone for all of the work that I know you're all doing to make this come alive, and in particular thank all of the providers that are going to do the really hard work of getting this done quickly. So thank you very much, everyone.
Nippegin's annual ice climbing event celebrated its 37th consecutive year this weekend. Ice Fest, which is entirely volunteer run, welcomed members of the public who wanted to try it out, and the weather conditions were nearly perfect on Saturday.
So tell me about what's going on here today and how this came to be.
Yeah, so this is the Nipigon Ice Fest. 2023, this is now the 37th year running. It's Canada's longest running ice climbing festival. Second oldest in North America, actually. And so today's an awesome day where we get a bunch of people coming out to enjoy the ice in this region.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of it here. I'm surprised myself by the amount of ice walls I've seen. Do you usually stick to the same locations every year, or do you switch it up?
We do like to switch it up, actually. A lot of the places are more suitable than others for the different skill levels, but we have hundreds of climbs in this area. Just up this highway, there's over 100 climbs to enjoy. So we do like to switch things up every so often.
Hey, you had a bit of a treacherous route coming up here. Is this typical, or is it usually harder, usually easier?
This is pretty standard. It's actually not too far from the highway, but it's a steep hill to come up. And yeah, typically it's not that difficult, but the snow conditions today made it a little more challenging.
You certainly made it look easy in compared to my climb there. Yeah, so tell me more about how you got into ice climbing and what you love about it.
Well, what I love is the unique nature of climbing a frozen waterfall. It's something I think that no other creature on this planet really does. Humans seem to be the only ones that decide to go climb up a frozen waterfall. And it's really fun. It's a very enjoyable experience. You get to enjoy the winter in a different kind of a way. I got into it over 15 years ago. Mostly in this region. When I first moved up to this region, I dived right into it. I had a little bit of exposure before, but as soon as I moved here, it's just world class. Everything is amazing here and very accessible.
Right on, that's awesome. Is this a typical beginner or intermediate, or?
This one is a mixed climbing clinic where we get to climb on the ice. We also get to climb on the rock with our tools, which is a little bit more of an advanced technique. Yeah, so this is kind of, we call it mixed climbing, dry tooling as well. Yeah.
So what's, yeah. Oh, sorry. And what is dry climbing exactly in comparison to ice climbing?
Dry tooling is where you put your crampons, the spikes on your feet, and your axes, the spikes in your hands, you put them on the rock as opposed to the frozen waterfall. So that would be ice climbing is where you're climbing up frozen waterfall and you're axing into the ice, whereas with dry tooling or mixed climbing, you're more so placing your ice axe on the rock and moving your crampons, your feet up on the rock as well.
I can imagine it's not typical to be able to find a place where you can do both right next to each other.
Yeah, it's very true. There's you won't find this everywhere. Northwest Ontario, this region, Thunder Bay, north of Nipigon area is where we're at. It's loaded with all this fun stuff. We could do every kind of climbing here, from every difficulty level, from really easy to near impossible.
And what are the typical ages you got here?
It's a wide range. We have here with us, I'm going to guess youngest is probably in their early 20s. Oldest, I think probably in their late 30s, early 40s. But at the Ice Fest itself, throughout all the different clinics that we have people ranging from late teens all the way to probably around 60 years old, something like that, who are signed up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right on. And you got a dog over here, Summit. Is he your dog, or is he the mascot, or?
Yeah, she's a little bit of both, actually. She's my dog. Summit is always with me on all my climbs. The very first time when I got her, I adopted her at 3 months old. The very first thing I did was take her ice climbing, and she loves being out, hanging out with the people, and the people seem to love her too. She's a good guide.
Yeah, no kidding. I fell onto my knees there as soon as I got to the top to take a little break, and she ran right up to me just to make sure I was good.
Yep.
Yeah, really personable.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So could you tell me about any of the risks associated with ice climbing and dangers? Maybe anything that's happened in the past, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the risk when you're ice climbing is that pretty much every time that you swing into the ice, there's going to be shards of ice coming down. And sometimes the chunks are pretty large. So that would be the main risk, is ice that's falling. So we always make sure to keep the base of the climbs clear. Always having our helmets on and safety equipment. The ropes will stay nice and tight to make sure if anybody falls off, they're not falling at distance. Yeah, with dry tooling, when you're probably the main risk I would say is kind of bashing yourself in the face if this pops off the rock. But we go over a lot of techniques and a lot of skills with the participants to make sure that they're well aware and getting a good sense of how to do it properly.
Right on. Yeah, I noticed you got a couple supervisors here, making sure that the new climbers are all safe to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually the Nipawin Ice Fest has always been run by volunteers, and Outdoor Skills and Thrills, my guiding company, we have a bunch of instructors that come and help pretty much facilitate and run the event. So these are all experienced climbers who are just excited to help get people out, and that's pretty much what they're here to do, is just like get people climbing, expose them to different styles, and just have a good time outside.
The Winter Fun Days activity series continued on the weekend, this time at Minnesota Park. The event had programming by Science North, the Youth Inclusion Program, Youth Move, and Healthy Kids Thunder Bay.
Can you just talk a little bit about what's going on here today?
We've got lots of building activities, so we have wood and marble run, some waffle blocks, some stack cups. We have a couple matching games with our rock and fish boards, and then our biggest attraction is probably our bottle rockets that work using the power of pressure that my coworker Mary has going over there.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about how the bottle rocket works?
So the bottle rocket is filled with a little bit of water to create a seal and a bit of pressure at the bottom. Then it is plugged by a bicycle pump. As you pump that bicycle pump, pressure is added into that system until eventually the cork of that bottle rocket pops, and then it is sent into the air. It's sent up straight using those little plastic pieces that you can see on the bottom. That's just making sure the air around the bottle is moving in almost a column, and it'll send it straight up into the air. And the height kind of depends on how good of a seal that you can get on that plug at the bottom.
And I guess, how popular is this attraction with the kids?
Oh, the kids love it. The rockets are always a hit. That's why we have it up. And you can kind of see it all through the neighborhood here because it's going higher than any of the buildings. So yeah, always a hit.
So today we are opening a new site out of Minnesota Park, so in the Dease, McKellar, Simpson, Ogden neighborhood. So today we're kind of getting to know the community members, giving information on our programming, and really just trying to start the rapport with the community.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
And can you talk a little bit about what Healthy Kids is?
Yeah, sure. So we work in 3 different neighborhoods in Thunder Bay. We have sites at McKellar. Sorry, we have sites. Let me try that again. Okay. Yeah, so we have sites at Academy and Windsor neighborhoods, and like Brianna said, we're just starting this one up here. So we offer health promotion programs and services to children and families in these areas.
And can you talk about the importance of, I guess, having this in the different neighborhoods?
Yeah, well, I think neighborhood cohesion is a big thing. Certainly having people out today, it's really nice to just get people out and talking to one another, especially after almost 3 years of being, separated and locked down. So I think just getting to know your neighbor is really important, and getting just involved with different stuff. Sorry, I messed that up.
Okay. You got it. That sounded good. I was like, wow, you know your stuff.
Yeah, just getting involved with different programs, agencies, organizations. Lots of the Healthy Kids programming is done by our partner organizations. We have Delico, we have the Health Unit, we have many different organizations that come in and do things like community kitchens and soccer programs, swimming, trauma groups, all kinds of things. So lots of support for the neighborhood.
Thanks for joining us for today's edition of Word for Word. We'll be back tomorrow with more interviews from across the Northwest.